So you can pick any song to open because what I'm going to talk about today doesn't have anything to do with anything that we have talked about. So it's not going to be anyway. I'm just giving you a warning. It's gonna yeah, okay.
Bhagavāraham samasambuddho Vichacharana sampano sukata loka vidu Anuttaro purisa dhammasarati Sada deva manusaram buddho Bhagavati Iti piso Bhagavāraham samasambuddho Vichacharana sampano sukata loka vidu Anuttaro purisa dhammasarati Sada deva manusaram buddho Bhagavati
When one has faith
I
in
need
the
that one
perfect
too.
love,
Dang.
yeah. And yesterday in our Dharma class, we were talking about the world of form. You know, there are many different ways that Buddhism can be understood and that the principles can be utilized. Some approach it from a devotional standpoint, and some approach the Dharma from a scientific standpoint. Some approach it from an academic or scholarly standpoint. Some approach it as a means of self-development. Some approach it as a means of cultivation or freedom from the notion of self, and that's a concept of emptiness. There are so many different ways to enter into the Dharma. They talk about 84,000 Dharma gates. And I don't know if that's a literal number. Let's just say that that means there's an endless number, infinite mind streams of sentient beings, particularly human beings. Today, I want to kind of piggyback off of Tuesday's class to bring some of you along with what we're investigating in our Tuesday and Friday class, because it can be a game changer in your capacity to enter into or to have not just the knowledge that Dharma affords, but the attainment. You know, we don't talk that much about attainment in Buddhism, you know, and the reason is because not many attain the objective of the inquiry. And so it just becomes one more thing one more good thing that we fit into our lives, but its true capacity to transform cannot occur because we have already fixed it within the confines of what we already know. Because in the mind stream, there are seeds there that are placed that get watered. So anything that we really talk about, there has to of understanding before if the seed is not planted, you'll never have a crop. And so when we're listening to Dharma, we're only evaluating Dharma from the standpoint of seeds in the consciousness that are being watered. And that's the limitation that we have with the ordinary mind, that it can only pick up on and piggyback upon something that the mind already knows. And as creatures of habit, we like to discover new things as long as it's close to what we have already discovered. You start to go too far and like you've lost me there. And it's the reason why we progress so slowly, because we have not cultivated the capacity to hear strange things and to be able to ponder them. It's like having your hearing aid turned low. And what the Dharma does is it encourages us to not be ordinary. Ordinary, it's not a derogatory term. You know, every time we like sort of split something into two parts, automatically for us, one of them has to be negative and the other positive. One has to be low and the other high, you know, because that's the way the human mind functions. There's a tandem and you have to appear somewhere between these two poles. But part of our growth and our progress in the Dharma is that we get off of that bar of duality and we can recognize the whole as in a unified way so that we can see good and bad, not as good and bad, but as aspects of one thing, the unity of all things. In the beginning, we can see that unity, but we can't flow or operate in the unity because of habitual tendencies, you know. And because our cultivation is not to the point that what I shouldn't do, I don't do. Right now, we're at what I would do, I don't do. And what I shouldn't do, I do that, you know, because that's where we might be in our development. And it's because of that differentiating mind that's always evaluating things and not able to see them intertwined or interlaced in this way, but we see them like this. So if you can get that image in your mind, this is the starting point. It's the interlacing, but after a while will come the dissolution. We can't have the dissolution here until we have the interlacing. And so in the beginning, we learned this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, you know. But later on, we start to see shades or degrees. And it's not like good, the word G-O-O-D, or bad, the word B-A-D, but we start thinking in terms of, is this useful or not useful? Is this beneficial or not beneficial? Is this helpful or not helpful? Is this causative in a way that it will promote what we're trying, to accomplish, or will it detract? And so you see there's a shading that starts to take place in the way that we view the world and the creatures in the world. So we lose our judgmental aspect of judging. So we can still judge, but not with a judging mentality. Saying words, but holding it in a different way. And that allows us to take action in a way that furthers our goal, or take action that of an evil nature. Now, when I say evil, we have the idea of ghosts and goblins and demons. But if you could think of evil as whatever takes you away from your goal, whatever takes you away from your goal of awakening, that can be considered evil. It can be as pretty, as bright, as enjoyable as you want to make it. But if it takes you away from your goal, that's what evil is. That's a tangible kind of in motion concept. It takes you away from your goal. It's as simple as that. So sometimes we do things, and even as we're doing it, we know that it is taking us away from what our aspiration is. Nevertheless, we do it anyway. And we do that because of that's what's called avidya, that's what's called ignorance. Ignorance is not just not knowing. It is knowing that it will not lead to our goal, and yet do it anyway. Have the urge and follow up on that urge. Most of what we do, by the time we evolve as a human being, most of it is knowing the right action that would take us to a goal and choosing to go in the other direction. Not moving on instinct now. Evolve beyond instinct to what we call critical thinking. And yet, when it comes time for action, that which I would do, it says in Romans 8, I don't do, and what I want to do. That which I would do, I don't do, and that I don't want to do, that thing I do. Oh, wretched man am I. And we feel this wretchedness. That's what suffering is. We recognize, we know the wretchedness. And so we're looking for a way of escape from the wretchedness. And the Buddha talks about the 5 aggregates, and they are, what are they? Form, feeling, perception, action, and conscience. Action was a kind of new term for me in Mahayana. We didn't really call it action because, as Theravadins, we like inaction is kind of our thing. So action I didn't understand what action was. But, you know, we're really talking about behaviors, because we have a talk and we can really talk our talk good, you know, but it's whether we can walk our talk. That's the thing. It has to actually be the action that is our true home. And so part of our aspiration is to abide in our only true home, because that's the only thing that matters. And so we live our life every day in some sort of action. But what aspiration, and how does our action line up with our talk? So we have to get out of a mentality kind of movement, because that doesn't move. That's just in the mind. But life itself involves motion. So motion is where reality is, but to enter into motion, we have to stop mentality. We have to step out of time. Now, most of this is gonna go today, but that's okay, because today I'm planting seeds that over the next few weeks can be watered. And then the sprouting will start, and a plant of realization can grow up. If we regurgitate what we have always heard, a repetition is really good, because we have to hear something 1,000 times to get it, you know. So our Buddha master would say, okay, you're going to hear me repeat this over and over and over. I am inculcating your mind. I just tell you the truth, because there are other things that you've heard 1,000 times that if you hear this once, it's not going to take root. It's like seed on concrete. Nothing's going to happen with it. But if you hear it again and again, and maybe in a little different way, the culmination of all of it will begin to take root, and something will awaken in you. It has to awaken in you, because it's already a part of your intrinsic nature. So he's saying, like, while we're searching for Buddha, we are that which we're searching for. That the Buddha nature is already there. And it doesn't have to be developed. It just needs to be awakened. Awakened means pointing to it and you see it. Now that's different from thinking that we're, so when we talk about Buddhas to be, don't misunderstand. We're never going to become something that is not already resident and available in us. We can see that in the natural world, and that's where self-development starts to kind of go a little askew and vectors off from Dharma realization. Self-development, and it goes a good distance, but it just doesn't go far enough. It'll never take you to the awakening of your Buddha nature. He says that all you need to know is where it is. That's what we're doing. We're scanning for where it is. And so we think we're building step by step, but actually what we're doing is bringing off obscurations bit by bit. We're not building step by step. We're pulling off or removing obscurations bit by bit. And there's a difference. Because if we were building, we would be creating something that does not exist. We're from seeing it. What hinders us from realizing it? What hinders us from acting why am I that? You know, if my intrinsic nature, why? And we start trying to build, listen to me, we start to improve our quality step by step. These are words that we use and we enter into the words, but today I'm talking about not trying to build upon words and concepts, but motion, trying entering into the motion of life, of reality. And it's a difference. One is going to take us a long, long time. The other one, not so much. Because we begin to accept the concept or the notion that we are that which we are reaching for. So this motion, this thing that we call life, you can call it anything you want. One thing is that you know when on this plane, when it's not there. When it's not there, we say a person is what? Or give me another word, 4-letter word.
Dead.
Person dead, right? And so that's really what it comes to, is life and death. So ordinary mind, or ordinary people are understand, they're just able to understand this kind of phenomena. And so when we say that something is false, they say, you mean that it's not real? And we're always talking about false perceptions invading the mind. We're always talking about we are not real as we suppose. So it gets to be some funny kind of lingo, funny kind of language that we're talking. So we should say, because we are truly in this phenomenal world, and it is a world within worlds. And we should understand that there is realness here. I'm sitting in this chair, I'm talking to you all, so it's real. I saw an actor, I forget his name, he was a comedian, and he went off on a real spiritual search, and he's got the concepts all in his head, but when he talks about it, they think he's crazy in Hollywood because he's talking the wrong language, for the group that he's talking to. And he'll go on and say, well, because it's not real anyway, you're not real and I'm not real. And people are looking at him like he's weird. And it's unfortunate, but he's talking the language, but he doesn't understand. He has an experience of the words that he's using. So today, using some words that Buddha Master is opening us up to, so that we can broaden our understanding of what it means to be Buddha versus a sentient being. And by making this distinction, we will have that are obtainable when the stability of form falls away. So we think of form as one of the 5 aggregates, right? But form is more than that. Form is tied or ties us to the material, phenomenal world. So any imagination we have about anything that is not of a phenomenal world is viewed through the lens of form. In other words, it's very difficult for us to imagine any other kind of world besides the world of form. So if the Dharma is talking about the formless realm, we have no reference ordinarily for understanding the formless realm. We only understand the formless realm through the lens of a world of form. So to enter into a formless realm, there has to be there has to be an opening by which we can enter the formless realm to know that realm, not just thinking about it from our view of materiality. There are different names for different realms, like we can talk about the astral planes, and they are not of the kind of form realm that we ordinarily abide in. It's encased, it's a part of it, but we can't recognize it, we can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't enter into it, and we can't even imagine it as long as we think what is concrete is all there is to the world. This will be all the world that we know. And so the Dharma tries to soften our edges so that we could possibly acknowledge there could be something else in some other kind of form, some other kind of space-time continuum that without me moving from this place allows me to cross dimensions and to accelerate in a certain way that, or speeding up kind of way. I'll give you a good example. If I'm walking down the street, I can see things very clearly, right? Very concretely. But if I'm in a train and the train is passing through there, then I don't see them because of the speeding up of the time relationship. People become a blur. And you go fast enough, people will disappear. Things will disappear. And it's like that We can see that in the natural. I want to say it again. Like if you're walking, and the slower I walk, the more I can concretely see something. But to move faster, the less of it I can see. And it has to do with the motion, with the movement. When we are thinking, even if we're thinking about the future, we're thinking now. When we're thinking, even if we're thinking about the past, we're thinking now. And so we get locked into a space that is tied into the phenomenal world, and we can't go any further. We can't perceive anything else. But if we were able to penetrate those barriers, then we could see that the future is now, and that the past is now. And that now is not even what we call now, because when we say now, it's already. I'm trying to shake up your mind right now so it doesn't know if it's coming or going. Am I doing a good job? I'm hoping that this is more confusing than this makes sense. If this makes sense, then it's something that we already know. So I'm hoping I'm sharing something that we don't already know. There is a kind of map, I could say, of consciousness. And we try to follow the map of concentration to get into, or to go to the plane or the land, right? Or the land of a different dimension when we're meditating. Meditating, otherwise we're just sitting still being quiet. No, just sitting still being quiet. And some people call that meditation. They think that they're meditating if they're sitting still and being quiet. But actually the mind is not entering into a different dimension of the universe. The mind is still thinking about people, places, and things. So we might as well, as Pannavati said, get up and chew bubble gum, because it's not really. And we use the doorway of concentration. So concentration's on this side, on this phenomenal side, using concentration to try to meditate. And you might call this like three-dimensional meditation, what we do here on this plane, right? But it's strictly mental. There is another state that we can enter, a barrier that we can cross by the cultivation, the arising, the releasing of empathy, of compassion, not thinking compassion, but I'm talking about true compassion. The empathy is when the dots get connected in the pain that you feel. I feel your pain. The confusion that's in your mind, I feel the confusion in the mind. And that we could say is like a fourth dimension. It's moving now. We are into a life dispensation, we're into some kind of motion, not just thinking. We're into the motion. But what does motion do? The faster the motion, the more it makes what appears to be solid or form, it makes it do what? What?
Blurred.
Right, and then what happens? It disappears. Yeah, this is just plain old human earth science, you see. And that's why when we compartmentalize things in a certain way, we can't see the totality of something and we miss it. And a very simple concept becomes very difficult to understand. Yeah. But if we really brought in all that we know, just as human knowledge, human wisdom, you know, it would do so much to propel our spiritual exploration. But because we keep it separate and compartmentalized, you know, it takes us a long time and mostly never to really get it. So we spend our whole life trying to be enlightened, trying to be liberated, trying to awaken, because we have compartmentalized all of our learning. So there's a time that we can begin to integrate and we can understand things. When I was trying to get find words, you know, sometimes you have an experience and then you have to unpack the experience. You have to find the words, and words can't even tell it. You know, they're so insufficient. They cannot some trajectory to go on and then to see in real time what shows up for you. So I caught that image of walking and how I could so clearly see and identify, and then faster and faster, and the faster you go, the more and more and more what seems phenomenal disappears. And just holding that image, one could kind of, sort of understand the emptiness of all phenomena. I might have to think about this.
So is it similar to something like arising impermanence? Because everything is constantly changing.
Constantly
Dynamic.
arising and disintegrating. Constantly
So like seeing the nature of reality.
seeing the nature of reality. And in this way, you could say that coming and going then is really no coming and no going. Now, right now, everybody's mind is trying to find, like, where was this before? You know, where did I see this, hear this, learn this? Where is this clear? Where has this been expressed in this way? I mean, we just get the words no coming, no going. Okay, I'm you know, like, well, there's no coming and no going. I mean, you know, we're just mouthing words. And the better we can mouth them, you know, like, the more we convince ourselves that we are knowing that we know something. But when you have the direct experience of it, and to have the direct experience of it, you have to open the mind so that something can come in that is not what you already embrace and hold as true. We want truth and the whole truth as long as it agrees with our truth. That's what we want. And it becomes very difficult for us to open to the possibility of something else. But when we open to the possibility, truth or prajna is ever present, always revealing itself to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. So what I'm trying to lay the foundation for today is how to move from like our three-dimensional kind of meditation experience to the fourth dimensional, which comes through the arousing of true compassion. That's supreme and unsurpassable Mahamudra of liberation. And yes.
What's coming to me is that for me, there's a difference between trying to let go and letting go.
Mhm. The mind.
I can feel that difference.
Mhm. The mind searches for and attaches to what it knows, or the closest thing to what it already knows. And what Dharma does, I'll get you 1 second, Rob. No, better go ahead.
I loved what you said about you said something like we have to move into life itself, but we have to quiet the mentality was kind of what I heard you say. It feels like a paradox. Can you speak more to that? Because I feel like that's kind of the crux of what you're saying to us. Is somewhere in beyond the space of those things opposing each other. Am I hearing you right? Because I feel like this is important.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's the expansion of consciousness. I mean, to expand consciousness is not to create and make more consciousness. It's already existing. It's just whether we enlarge enough to encompass something beyond what this life experience has exposed us to. But it's all there. No, but it's whether we can be open to it. You know, in other words, it has to impute upon us. We cannot chase after it because there's no way our mind can apprehend it. We are apprehended by it. We enlarge into it. We expand to fill the space, the broadening of the expansion of our own consciousness is what I'm saying. Because, and when I say our own, I don't mean mine, Pannavati's. It's not that it is part of me that I'm trying to develop. It's that I am a part of it. And in our conceit, we have temporarily made ourselves separate from just universal consciousness. We have picked a spot and just can't stop messing with that spot. You know, and like you're trying to rub out the spot, and what you're doing is creating a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper groove for the spot. And we think we're going to make progress in that way. And so it's like forgetting about the self. And the greatest way to forget about the self, the easiest way to forget about the self is to concentrate on others. We're busy working hard on ourselves, out damn spot, just trying to rub out our quote unwholesomeness or rub out our focus on ourselves, but you can't rub it out. But if your attention shifts, self is forgotten. It's like when I see like my grandchild and suddenly I'm just, like smitten with her. And for the 5 minutes that I'm smitten, it's I'm not thinking about me at all. Now, later on, I'll start thinking about me because there's things she's going to want from me. Now, and my focus now comes back and it's between me and her. And then if it's too much, like my grandchild she had eczema. I mean, really, really bad. And so she would wake up itching at night. And then she'd be fussy and she'd be wailing, and I loved her, goodness. But it was time to take her back to her mother because it was hard for me. My sense of self, just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The more irritated she was and the less in control I was of that situation. And the more I was like glad that she was my, daughter, oh, it was my great-granddaughter, my granddaughter's child and mine, that I didn't have to deal with this 24/7. I mean, Pannavati got really large in that experience, But whenever I had empathy, whenever I identified with her suffering, there was no thought of Pannavati. This is how we can make a rapid shift in our understanding if we can hear it. That's why the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are always imploring us to cultivate compassion, because that's the quickest way to unification. That's the quickest way and the least troublesome, and the least hard, the least difficult. And it's what more easily erases the notions that, co-arise with selfishness. That uproots the greed, it uproots the hatred, it uproots the jealousy, it uproots the envy, all the things that we're like working on, the I-ness stuff that we're working on. And when we free ourselves in that way, it's just like that train moving so fast that you don't see that things begin to like disappear. You cannot see them. The rest, we're working. But if we look at it this way, they just disappear. The way the Buddha Master says it is that the aggregates cannot
Arise.
they cannot rise. Oh, if we could just get that, then this life, this spiritual life, wouldn't be a cakewalk, and it would be true. Cultivation, just setting ourselves into the motion, because compassion requires action, requires acting. not thinking. There's not to say that thought in the beginning won't be there, but it'll be the thoughts that will take you to your goal instead of evil thoughts, ones that take you away from your goal. You see, now this whole thing is out of the category of religion completely. And we can look in the world and see what's happening in the world and not be perturbed and not be and not wonder, be perplexed, not wonder why it's like it is and how it is. We understand what's operating in the consciousness of men. Now, we might want to blame them because theirs is so ugly because they're good at their job. And we're not as good as they are. That's why, people who are good, they will do good until they feel like they're losing, and then they'll turn to doing bad things to try to win. Because they've recognized that bad people are better at being bad than good people are at being good. I know that's true for me. No. But there's some who do it to a greater degree than I do. And so when I compare myself with them, I call myself good and call them bad. But you can see how that's not really true. It's a false appearance in the mind. So in order for there to be goodness in the world, it takes those who establish that foundation to be as good in producing the action of goodness as bad people are at producing the actions that harm. It's that simple. Now, because I know that minds can be transformed, I know that there is hope for the world to be better, to be a better place. I know that. But I have to do my part in it. And if all my time is spent worrying about what they do, I'll never have time to unleash the kind of energy into the world that speeds up the consciousness so that these debilitating conditions can fall away. That's how important our practice is. And that's really what we're called to. So, Bodhisattva, a kind of being that's vibrating, like the train is moving, as opposed to like me walking, moving faster than the speed of light. That changes the structure of appearances. It changes what can be seen, what can operate, what can be known. What can I say? And what happens is that consciousness moves, it like explodes into everywhere. That's how appearances change. I had a pressure cooker one time. My husband took it and he threw it in the backyard. I didn't know how to use it. And I put the greens in. I thought I fastened the top. I'm reading the instructions. And in a few minutes, it blew up, the lid flew off, the greens were all on the ceiling. You know, it was a dangerous situation. You know, and so that's why we talk about some things that we study and learn, what we call spiritual technologies. It's not for everybody to learn in any kind of state, because like, it'll blow the lid off or something, and you hurt yourself and hurt somebody and mess up everything around you. So some things are not for everybody to know, but some things are for somebody's to know, to operate in, the collapsing the time for utilization or for getting things done, or for, I'm gonna unpack this over the next few weeks, but I'm just saying, strap in, because we're gonna be talking about this Dharma in a kind of way. And Buddha Master started it in expounding the absolute truth through the Heart Sutra, in understanding emptiness. And we'll walk away with a whole different concept of what emptiness is. It doesn't mean like a void where there is nothing, but it actually means the capacity for anything and everything to manifest. So it's out of this kind of an emptiness that everything has an appearance. And it's into this kind of emptiness that everything that has an appearance ultimately returns to. And if we can understand it in that way, then the limited mind of the selfish, individuated self will fall away naturally. You can't force this, but you also can't stop it. An object in motion does what? Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. So the only time that we stop moving is when we hit a wall. That's the only thing that stands between you and your liberation, is hitting the wall. And the wall we hit, or the wall is the wall of the
consciousness.
Mind grounds.
The mind or the ego.
oh, that's pretty good. The mind ground is the wall of the known. That's what our whole trouble is, hitting the wall of the known, what we already know, and saying, unless it lines up with this, not I can't understand it, but I don't want to understand it, unless it lines up with this, with what I know. And so actually what we're going to be doing is relaxing this mind of the known in a way that we can recognize the explosion of consciousness everywhere. That's why I have a certain kind of devotion. I'm devoted to knowing. open to knowing. And that's why I receive things, not just what I can scrounge out and make out in my own mind, but I stand open to receiving, to knowing. I want to know more. And so prajna, in that surrender, that's a kind of surrender. And in that surrender, prajna is self-revealing. And so we have experiences by passing through the limitations of dimensionality. That's a word, right? Through the barrier of three-dimensionality. And we enter into these other dimensions. And these are states, but not states of the human mind, of the ordinary mind. And then we become useful to the world, not just here, just biding our time and getting distracted by things. It's like being sent to the store and never get to the store because you are busy dilly-dallying and looking at the dandelions and smelling the roses and watching the people. And, we're like all over the place. Forgot, putting aside our great aspiration. And then you have to have one too, If you don't have one, there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. And this is where will comes in. What I will do, what I am willing to do. To change some of our behaviors, like we can take the Xanax, we can listen to hypnosis, we can we can read something in a book and we can keep trying to tell ourselves, follow this instruction, follow this instruction, follow this instruction. But the issue comes up with our willingness. What am I willing to do? If I'm not willing to do it, no matter how much I try out here to be better, do better, get better, it's impossible without really wanting to. Do I really want to? So I'm examining the things that I do on a daily basis, the things I say, how I respond in certain situations, what I think about in my free time, and I'm asking myself, first of all, does this take me towards my goal of liberation, being free? Just living is stress is where I am with this now. Just the everyday mundane things we have to do, even the fun things that we do, I feel the weight of them. I feel the weight of it. And so I'm saying, what would take this weight off of me right now? And I try to figure out what that is. And then, okay, so now I think I know what it is. Am I willing to do it? It's like, what's it going to take for me to do it? I know all I have to do is just let that go. I don't have to make a big deal out of that. I don't have to make a big deal out of that. Out of what I just saw, or what was just done, or what I just heard. I don't have to make a big deal out of it. But then I choose. I choose to make a big deal out of it. I choose to let it occupy my mind, and then I respond to my own response. I'm not responding to your response. I'm responding to my own response. So you're not creating a problem for me. I'm creating a problem for me, and I'm doing it willingly. And I could see that. Now I can laugh at it because that's so ridiculous. So now I'm not going to flagellate, beat myself up. Oh, bad girl. I'm not going to flagellate, beat myself up on it. Now that I see that by sitting there, I'm concentrating. I know now how to make it nothing. I do that by my own free will. I surrender it. I love the song that Busita's singing. I surrender all, shedding self, its many layers. And in that surrender, we see what's all around us. Not from a place of being under the circumstances, you know, but it's like being perched at the tip of an apex, not being in the forest and can't see the forest for the trees, but being perched at the apex where we can peruse the whole forest. It's a kind of liberation. And then it allows you to walk fearlessly in life every day in a kind of peace and a kind of clear seeing that you just don't fear any man. Does it mean that you don't recognize that there are going to be situations that are not comfortable? No, we're not like talking like Pollyanna living. You know, we know that there are going to be situations that are unpleasant. But now we're more equipped to be able to handle unpleasant situations. It's not that they go away. He never promised us a rose garden. But we start to get to a place that we know by reason of exercising our own qualities and skills that there's nothing that we can't handle. Handle meaning like tolerate meaning like accommodate in our life. And because we enter into circumstances with that kind of inner assurance, we can do our absolute best and know that we're doing our absolute best. Not doing more than what we can do. We will know our limitations because we will know our own state. And there are higher and higher states, or you could say deeper, doesn't matter, higher and higher or deeper and deeper states that we can enter when we cultivate this way. And what we will see in the speeding up is we talk about frequency and so forth, but you know, we're still on the side of form when we're talking about that, right? But as there's the speeding up of the consciousness that bathes us in a kind of light, and it bathes the world that we behold in a kind of light that releases or obliterates, blinds us to, destroys, uproots, takes away the suffering that we bring on by these stagnant lower states of consciousness. So the last thing in what we read was to recognize phenomenal world, physical world, things that we can touch, but to recognize that anything that we hear, even these words that I'm speaking today, they are still in the realm of form. Whatever I see, it is still in the realm of form. Whatever I smell is still in the realm of form. We start thinking like, oh, out of form now because I'm having these fragrances come to me out of nowhere, no roses around, yet I'm smelling roses. You know, or I see these images, but it's not really there. It's my mind producing these kinds of images, like mirages or like. And so we do these practices, and these practices are designed just to show us the boundaries of form. And we think we're getting somewhere when we are like seeing things and we're visualizing things and we're smelling fragrances and, you know, and we think we're getting somewhere, and we are getting somewhere, but we have not gotten out of even the realm of form. So eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, it hasn't even entered into your heart what lies, the vastness of the emptiness beyond form. So buckle up. He's saying that we can apprehend this in this life. This life. How are we going to do it? It'll take 100 billion years in the way I'm going about it. You know, it's like use an addition instead of multiplication. You can use addition, but it's going to take a lot longer. Because I don't understand algebra even now, because I didn't pass, you had to graduate, and I graduated, so I'm pretty sure I cheated because I don't understand it. One time I did cheat. I wrote, one time that I recall, definitely, because I wrote and I was studying, and to make sure I wouldn't forget, I wrote some things on my hand, and then we sit down to take the test, and I'm just acing the test, right? Didn't even have to look at my hand. I'm just acing the test, and my teacher comes over and holds my hand up, and I failed. I got an F that semester, and because I cheated on that test. That just goes to show you all the things that's still in the mind and that come up. So many things, so many missteps that we make it that we had to think about, realize, but yet there is there is a recompense for that. I got an F in that course, and I had A's. Now the A's that I had are suspect. My French, and test escape destroyed everything for me. I got by because then they gave me another test that was like a full semester test. Down somewhere, I cheated, you know. But I can look at something like that, and I'm not flagellating, I'm not beating up, I'm not excusing, I'm not hiding. I mean, it's part of the process, and we have to get to the place that we can look and acknowledge these things, that are going on truly in our mind and in our heart. And when we can look at them that way, it's a way that allows them to be neutralized and to dissolve, And then life becomes an exploration. And we can just really, there's a marvelous existence that's connected to the emptiness of all things. And if you dally too long, things will be concrete for you. All you gotta do is speed it up. As you speed it up, it dissolves, and that's how we will begin to awaken to deeper dimensions of reality other than this one that we are sure that that's all that exists. Okay, I think I want to end right there because I don't think that we'll remember much of this talk today. But just know that today I was planting seeds. That as we go back to our regular study, now they will be watered. And our capacity to understand some of the profoundly simple but deep principles of Dharma will begin to shed their light on your life. And you will be able to understand more and more, to really see the Dharmakaya, which is your own original nature. Somebody close for me today. Any questions? Yeah, I think so. Thank you for your comment today.
The merit accumulated from our study of the Dharma, listening to the Dharma today, go to the service of all living beings everywhere, in all dimensions of all types. May living beings encounter the truth of their own existence, realize that there's more to be had, no matter where they are, from unity than separateness. May they find a way to begin to cultivate a mind that moves towards that unity. May all be well.